Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Thorne, the Community Relations Coordinator for the Stormwater Quality Division here at the City of Oklahoma City. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the October session of our 2025 webinar series. Before we begin hearing from our presenter, I'd like to provide some information to help enhance everyone's experience during today's webinar. To reduce background noise, we ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into chat. We will be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will have our speaker answer as many as possible. If anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please send us a request via email. We will place my email address into chat, so you'll have it handy. Each of our recorded webinars will be available on our website as well as OKC's YouTube channel. We'll post a link to the webpage where you can find those recordings towards the end of today's session. If anyone has any questions at this time, please feel free to type them into chat. Up next is the presentation for today's session. Today we are pleased to welcome David Chase with Skybridge Construction with his presentation, Rose Creek Plaza, a case study on long-term stormwater management. David Chase, representing Skybridge Construction, brings over 40 years of experience in the construction industry, with a proven track record of delivering high-quality infrastructure projects. For more than 25 years, David has worked hands-on in construction, developing expertise in project execution, quality assurance, and innovative problem-solving. Over the past 15 years, he has served as a superintendent, leading the complex projects with a focus on sustainability and regulatory compliance. As a certified Oklahoma erosion and sediment control inspector, David possesses specialized knowledge in managing environmental impacts during construction, ensuring adherence to state and federal regulations. His leadership in the Rose Creek Plaza project was pivotal in the successful implementation of its stormwater management systems, including the gabion wall basket system and box culvert overpasses. David's expertise in erosion control and his collaborative approach with stakeholders ensured that the project met stringent Clean Water Act standards while delivering lasting benefits to the community. Representing Skybridge Construction, David is committed to sharing insights from this project to advance sustainable development practices in Oklahoma City. Again, if anyone has any questions during today's presentations, be sure to type them into chat. David will be available at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. David, I'll hand the reins over to you. You may start sharing your screen and begin your presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate the introduction.
Absolutely.
We're going to walk through the project's journey today, from the permitting process to the long-term results, with time for questions at the end. Let's see. Located in the Rose Creek Plaza, the permitting and the 404 section of the compliance permitting early on was done prior to my joining the project. As everybody knows, or if you don't, it's a long process to get the USA CE permit 404. There's a long-term study that goes on with that, as well as the OKC permitting through the DEQ. Stormwater quality inspections were all planned out. The challenges were the terrain, keeping compliance, and then the community. We have a large community of homes, very affluent homes near the project. The solutions for the job were the gabion walls and the box culverts. We're going to go through key wins, through the construction, through the stabilization, and then the neighbors with interaction with them. We're also going to go through long-term performance and lessons learned, with about 15 minutes or so at the end of questions and answers, if I can be so bold as to answer your questions. As in the bio earlier, my name is David Chase. I'm a project superintendent with Skybridge Construction. I've got 40 years of experience in the construction industry with 25 years of hands-on experience building, with 15 years as a field superintendent manager. I'm also a certified Oklahoma erosion and sediment control inspector. Due to this job, the complex terrain, the environment, the development needs, and then being up to date with state and federal requirements led us to have me go in and get the inspector's certification. I led the Rose Creek stormwater infrastructure implementation, still currently leading the Rose Creek development for the next, say, foreseeable future. The project overview, Rose Creek Plaza, location is Oklahoma City. We're right on the border of Edmond and Oklahoma City at the corner of 164th and North May. This is a commercial plaza in an urban setting. We've got two sides, actually three sides, but we're bordered by two major streets, North May and 164th, but we have Rose Creek Country Club and homes right behind us and to the east, west of us. The focus is the stormwater management compliance is the Clean Water Act, Section 404, and the OKC regulations. In the picture that you see here on this slide, you can see the complex environment that we had to work in. The creek running through the left side of your picture, right next to 164th, that creek runs right into the settlement pond that was provided by the country club during their build out. If you look at the left side of the screen, going under the road, we collect water from 100+ acres to the south of the project that run in under 164th, and we collect about 40 to 70, depending on the area, acres of water just east and a little north of the project itself that all run through into the creek. Permitting process, it was long. The coordination with city departments took quite a bit of time to get everything together, but once we got the stormwater plan into the city, it didn't take much time to get the permits completed. The wins on that were we streamlined the approvals through proactive communication with the city, with the Corps of Engineers. We ensured a timely permit approval by getting all that stuff done early and then aligning the project goals with the city standards. That was really crucial to keep things moving forward. Some of the challenges were the weather. We got seasonal weather here in Oklahoma. We have tornadoes. We have hot, dry dust. We have torrential rains at times and hail. We just have a whole host of things that try to stand in our way. They pose significant hurdles, complicating the construction timelines, but adapting to these extremes, it demands a flexibility in the schedule and the coordination with the subcontractors and the city. So you have to maintain that without compromising quality to the environment, and that's where these standards really play out for everybody in the industry. The Clean Water Act, Section 404, is the wetlands, upland section of the permitting, and the permit impacts to the water downstream. So what water feeds out of this site feeds into the settlement ponds, feeds downstream, eventually getting into the rivers, and then ultimately back into either river, a lake that we use for water, or back into the ocean. So the environmental assessments, mitigation plans, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers really kind of gave us all the information up front, as well as the DEQ. The outcome is full compliance with minimal ecological disruption. The stormwater quality inspections are frequent. If you know about your stormwater compliance book, after every rain event, of half an inch or more, you have to fill out your inspections. You've got to make sure that you didn't have sediment leaving the job site. Regular inspections for runoff control is done by the on-site superintendent typically, and by the city or the state. Really going to whether things are going to work out good for you on your job or not. We didn't really have a lot of play in our job. It was so big that we had to keep everything in place at all times. If you look closely at the picture around the creek, this picture kind of gives you a lot of details. This, as it's running down towards the bottom of the picture, it runs into the settlement pond that's at the country club, right under that little golf cart bridge. We had to silt fence all the way around the creek, all the way to the built pass crossing that we were allowed to put in to cross the creek. Under the permit guidelines, you only have a small section of creek that you can work in. They gave us 20 feet on each side of the bridge to use as passage from one side of the creek to the other. Sediment traps, monitoring throughout the construction. We had to build settlement ponds throughout the construction process and then move them, and it was quite eventful. Consistent compliance with stormwater quality standards is really the only way to keep your job running smoothly, consistently, and without a bunch of complications. You can see the RCP, which is the round concrete pipe for the stormwater collection and disbursement into the creek, all throughout the creek as we built the creek and the gabion walls, which we'll get into in a minute. Challenges, man, this job was challenging. There's a lot of complex terrain. When we got here, the creek was the lowest spot on the whole job. It was probably in some areas 12 feet below level of the closest street, which was on the top left picture there. You can see that's 164th, and that creek was probably 10 to 11 feet below that level. We had to bring that all up to level while maintaining the creek. We had to run diversion channels through stormwater culverts to channelize the water while we did the build. It was very time consuming. The topography, the steep slopes, the flood prone area with collecting water from the other side of the street with another site coming in, high risk of flash flooding. It was quite a build. Well, we managed to get through it. Limited space for the infrastructure was really critical, so we had to kind of pace ourselves on this job. Challenges and compliance and community, it was crucial. We had a lot of feedback with the community. We had a lot of prior knowledge to what they were going to require from us, balancing federal and OKC regulations, addressing neighbor concerns such as noise, traffic, mud, dust control. These people didn't want to see mud coming out of this site getting on their brand new cars, and driving their kids to school. They didn't want to see a bunch of trucks with dirt coming out of the bottom. So having a good construction entrance, maintaining a good construction entrance was critical. Construction logistics and managing those timelines and access and moving parts was a balancing act, but we managed to get through it. Melanie Lawson, she was at the time our head inspector, our lead inspector, and she would visit me often. Sometimes not such good, was such a good message, but it was always the message that was needed. And she was critical in making sure that we implemented the staging and the BMPs that needed to be put in. And she kept me on track. And I can't say that it wasn't bumpy, but it was also ultimately we managed the timeline, we managed the access, we managed neighbor concerns, we managed the noise, the traffic, and we kept the mud off the street. So Thank you to Melanie and the DEQ for all their help, and we really appreciated that. It made this job really awesome to work on, and still awesome to work on. Now we have Mr. Weidman is our compliance inspector, and he also keeps us on track. So thank you to everybody involved. The goals for this project were environmental and community goals, benefits. We want to protect Rose Creek's water quality and the existing habitat. Through the creek, there were fish, crawdads, owls, rabbits, and all kinds of wildlife that we've managed to tear apart their habitat, put it back together in a better form that we can manage the water safely under the bridges, safely through the job site and out into the sediment areas downstream with as least amount of sediment in there. We reduce the flood risk to the surrounding areas and the job site itself and downstream. We enhance the site aesthetics and the value to the community so they don't have to look at some ugly creek with a bunch of debris down there. The creek stays clean, the channelized water is safe, and it really makes a big difference in the site and in the community. The solution spotlight on this job was particularly the gabion wall system in part. The wire mesh baskets filled with local stone was an amazing story. I had never built a gabion wall. I had read about them. I've seen them in Corps engineer projects, big civil projects in other places, but I had never worked on one hands-on. And as I was learning about it, reading the engineering reports, learning how to assemble these things, I needed to know more. As a good superintendent, I wanted to know more. So I started studying online and looking up videos, and I ended up on YouTube, and I found a company called Riverscapes, and they had these exact same situations, circumstances, but in a marshy area. So I looked at the video and I learned everything I could about it, just trying to self-teach, and then try to teach the guys out in the field who were struggling to get the project done as well. At the end of the video, because I did watch it to the end, there was a gentleman, the presenter, whose name and phone number was on at the end of that video with the name of their company. I contacted him. We met here on this site, and he talked me through the solutions, the concerns, and some of the risks that we were going to encounter. And it just made the rest of the job flow smoother, much better. He was able to offer us and sell us and get us in contact with the people who made the tools that made the job easier. It was amazing. The stabilized creek banks and the reduced runoff, the erosion control and permeability, the aesthetics, it just came out really great. The wire mesh baskets filled with the local rock was just a really great idea the engineers put into that. And the engineers, I don't know if I mentioned that, was Kimley Horn. They did a great job on the design. The spotlight on the box culverts, which is the second part of this, the overpass, the reinforced concrete culverts for the water to flow through so that the cars can go over safely without erosion, was a huge job. If you look at the picture on the left, that's what's called a mud mat. That mat is laid down underneath the creek bed. And it basically turns into the solid, stable surface that the bridge and the creek are going to run through, on, and over. As you can see, the silt fence all around the creek. We surrounded the whole creek with silt fence and channelized everything into flood tubes that we ran around the side, and we'd pump it from one side to the other, and we kept the water moving. Even on the wet days, we were able to manage. By the time we got framed up, got the concrete poured, you can see the picture on the left. That's a 9-channel box culvert. It takes the water from the 100 acres that we service above onto to the east of our project and south, and channelizes it down into the creek. The reinforced concrete culverts help the water flow, keeps the pedestrians and the traffic safe. flood prevention, infrastructure prevention, ensures safe passage under the roads for the water and for animal life. The implementation and planning and permitting, the site assessment and terrain analysis was huge. OKC and the permitting coordination for Section 404 was a design collaboration with the engineers, the state and city regulators, Skybridge Construction, and Skybridge Construction Management early on that made this all happen. And as you can see, the site in the picture above, this is an actual picture while we were pouring the private drive, which is now called Rose Creek Boulevard. Also, at the very top of the picture, just below the homes, which are, everybody knows, those are Rose Creek homes. They're very valuable. We put in a landscape wall. We put in drainage. We added all the utility infrastructure, water, sewer, gas, all at the same time while managing the site and keeping everything running smoothly. If you look at the Gabion wall down on the left side, is being built at the time, channelizing the water. We had to continue to keep stormwater BMPs in place to keep the water channelized even outside of the work area until we opened the work area for what it was to be used for. But yeah, it was a great big project. At times it was overwhelming, but it was very successful. Construction, stormwater quality measures, implementation, same situation. It's always continuing to move. We worked on the 9-box culvert above, which was at the top left of your picture. The smaller box culvert, which was a 5-box culvert that goes through on the smaller road, the private drive there. You can see in the picture, we're just getting that built and just above the mud mat, and still channelizing water around the work area. The pile of debris you see by the cursor, that was a pile of all the trees that we cut down and removed from the creek itself. Under the 404 conditions, you cannot remove the root system from the trees, but you can cut the trees down at their base. So we removed the trees, put them in a pile, and we couldn't get a permit to burn the trees because there was too much. And at the time of year, we couldn't burn the trees. So we brought in a mulcher and we mulched all the trees down into a pile of mulch and then used that mulch on the site later on throughout the garden beds and through our landscape contractor. We were able to use that material back on site. So takeaways on this, key wins. If you look in the background, the Homeland is the anchor store at the very top of the picture, top center. The buildings, the small building to the right is building 3. To the right of that is building 2 and building 1. That was lot 4. As we develop the site, you can see that the pavement gets done, the landscaping goes in, the hardscape goes in, and the site becomes stable, and it works its way towards the creek stabilized and still in good shape. You can see the creek in all its beauty. The 404 areas, which are the wetlands throughout the creek at both the top, bottom, and through the center, through the channelized areas, are in great shape. They host a whole bunch of wildlife. We have hawks, we have turtles, we have rabbits, and all just all types of wildlife down there that are able to stay. As we continue to work, they'll stay. We went from, I think, a 30% runoff efficacy to 90% runoff efficacy, which is pretty dramatic. The stabilization was very effective at erosion control here. The Gabion wall system in place as a permanent solution with the box culverts really channelized the water safely through the site. As stated earlier, it's really positive for not having disruptions to the roads and services. It enhances the safety and aesthetics of the plaza, and it builds community trust for Skybridge and for the state and for the city that through transparency and communication, we can get jobs like this complete and make them look nice. Long-term performance, still to be seen. The project's been the Gabion wall, the box culverts and the roads have been in service for almost 3 years now. They look better now than they did before. I think they're just growing into themselves. It's been able to maintain the water quality per this OKC and 404 standards. Reduced flood incidents by keeping the water controlled, and lowers maintenance costs over time by keeping the banks from eroding, rilling, and losing the banks and having to refill and restabilize buildings and all that. So lowers the cost of maintenance over time. It makes the job look nice, and it reduces flood incidents. Lessons learned and recommendations. This one we thought about long and hard. Lessons: we wanted to adapt seasonal weather challenges into the job, but the weather here is very inconsistent. Sometimes it's hot, but then it's cold. Then it's wet, but then it's dry. The OKC permitting, early engagement, being on the up and up with the city people, Melanie, Taylor, our inspectors. We built trust with them. They built trust with us. We built trust with the community, being transparent, working together. I think the next part of this, the recommendations, if I was to recommend, as we would recommend, leveraging certified experts, engineers that know how to do these types of things for your future projects. Invest in certified erosion control inspectors. If you don't have a certified erosion control inspector, you should check with your city folks, and they offer classes, which is what I took to become a erosion control inspector through the state of Oklahoma. And then you can implement sustainable systems on your job for OKC's urban developments. So in conclusion, sustainable stormwater success at Rose Creek development, proactive approach, working in tandem with local, state, and federal jurisdictions, community-centric approach with the neighbors to minimize disruptions, build trust, keep the site and the area clean in the community. If anybody ever has any questions, or if you'd like to make contact with us in regards to any of the stuff that we did here, I provided my email and my phone number there. Feel free to give us a call at any time. I'd be glad to answer your questions here afterwards, but also in the future, if you have any questions, if you needed any assistance with your Gabion wall, baskets, or anything, box culverts, need a subcontractor name, we're always willing to help out anywhere we can. I guess that's my part in this. I appreciate you all putting up with me for the last 30-40 minutes, and I appreciate you walking through this project with us. It was a case study that we put together. I've never done this before, so I was very excited about it, but also very nervous. So I hope it made sense to everyone, and that it brought benefit to you and your projects in the future. And I hope that everybody was able to take away from this update. So thank you.
David, that was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are a few questions for you. Joel Dixon would like to know, why did you remove all the trees and why not keep them?
The tree removal was required during the construction permitting portion. They asked us to remove all the trees, that the trees were not going to be conducive to keeping the flow of the water through the channel. So periodically throughout the year, if you look at the picture on the screen now, there's small trees that bloom, but the landscape maintenance contractors come in and they cut them down back down to the stump at ground level, and then remove all the brush to keep it clear.
Great. And then Michael Jordan would like to know, who did you get your Oklahoma inspector certification through?
through the city, through the state of Oklahoma Department of Water Quality, DEQ. If you
Okay,
send me a, if you send me a message, I can give you the class and the sign up.
perfect. Also, to add on to that, Kaylin Prather was gracious enough to drop a link into the chat for the EPA free construction site inspector training online courses.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And then Derek Johnson, in the context of stormwater quality management, was there any definitive points during the development that were more challenging to maintain compliance?
During the construction of the bridge, getting the mud mats in, we were in a little bit of a wet season and going into the summer. So it was spring and it was definitely challenging. There were days when we could work and days when we couldn't work, and all we could do is manage water. So yeah, it was definitely challenging. The gabion wall and the box culverts were probably the most challenging.
Melanie Lawson commented, "Thank you for sharing your experience and expertise. Rose Creek was a truly unique project." And then it looks like we have one more question from Alyssa Lusk. One of the objections we hear often is installing robust controls up front is cost. Did you find any cost reduction in committing to stormwater compliance from the beginning?
It seemed like an overwhelming cost getting the site surrounded with silt fence and putting in the controls and the BMPs around the project as well. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the picture, in the very, very bottom of that, right along the edge of the curb, you'll still see, I still manage rock bags, gravel bags there to make sure that no sediment gets into the stormwater during the construction of the other site. That we're not working on that site, but we're also managing the BMPs. So yes, it's expensive up front, but it was very well worth the expense, knowing that the community was happy that we weren't getting phone calls about mud leaving the site, and I wasn't getting visits from our DEQ compliance officers.
Absolutely. It is definitely a good trade-off. Okay, we're gonna have a few more seconds where anyone can ask any more questions in the chat. Oh, Jordan Peoples wants to know, did you find the temporary sediment basins on site to be helpful in managing runoff?
Absolutely, those were crucial in. I kind of fought it at first. I was like, we're just digging a big hole out here, and we're moving water into this. And the engineer was like, "Look, you got to have it. I'm going to tell you why. You'll see why if you don't." And I was like, "Okay." I put them in. I watched them fill up, and it would take forever for them to evaporate. And I'd be like, "Oh, there's just a big mud hole there." And then it fill up again. But it was definitely crucial in settling out the water, giving it a place to settle into before it got into the creek. And I think a lot of it was the timing. It gives water a place to go before it hits the creek so that it doesn't all rush down at once.
Absolutely. Great. And then Derek Johnson just had another comment. Great presentation, David. Thank you for sharing with us. And then William Weideman or Taylor said, "Great job, David. Always great working with you and the team on compliance."
Thank you, William.
Okay, that seems to wrap up all the questions. So I'm just going to go back into the ending portion of this. Please remember, if anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's presentation, please send us an email to request it. We are placing my email again into chat. Please don't request the certificates in the chat because we may not have your email address linked to your username on Teams. I will send out those certificates this week. As I've mentioned, a recording of today's presentation should be available online in the next week or so. We will put that website link into the chat for you now. While we are adding my email and the link to our webinar page in chat, I would like to share a few important resources that are available to you. First up is our newsletter. We have 4 you can pick from, including our quarterly newsletter, our construction industrial newsletter, and our volunteer newsletter. The quarterly newsletter for volunteering is going to be event schedules, program tips, MVP highlights, volunteer photos, and progress updates. That is me and Jordan's baby. We would love if you guys would follow that and get that newsletter. It has some great tips for success for volunteering and other useful information for our waterway and our Adopt a City Street programs. We also have the industrial training and education newsletter. You can get OKR05 education, training events, and High Five awards. That goes the same for our construction training education. Great place to get OKR10 education, training events for construction, and permit fee updates. And then our quarterly newsletter, program updates, seasonal tips, public events, training events, and staff highlights. The second resource we would want to share with you guys is our Action Center. One of the most common questions our staff receive is, how can I report an environmental issue like a spill? If you witness a spill or have any threat to your environment, we encourage you to report it calling OKC's Action Center. The Action Center can receive reports in a lot of different ways. So if you don't want to call in, you can always send in your concern by email, text, or even Twitter, or now known as X. These concerns are then sent directly to us so our team can respond and investigate. Before we wrap up today, we would love to receive your feedback, so please complete our brief survey by scanning the QR code now shown on your screen. And while you are doing that, I would like to invite everyone back for our last webinar of 2025 on December 16th. We will be hearing from our own Melanie Lawson about demo permitting. Until then, we thank you all for attending today's session and hope you have a great afternoon. Bye, everyone.